Some of you might have been wondering where I have been. For those of you not on Discord or Reddit, I've been very busy in the last couple of years on both platforms, and I have come to several conclusions about men's spaces on the internet and men's activism in general. Part of the reason why I stopped making videos is I got sick of the incessant drama and dysfunctional toxic behavior. These video responses arguing over petty, irrelevant points that had no bearing on the general welfare of men or the state of society attracted the wrong crowd, weren't interesting, and didn't even grow my channel. Transgenders in sports, the decline of Star Wars and the movie The Terminator, and the misdeeds of well known YouTubers have no insignificant impact on the world, let alone men as a group. It's just gossip fodder and entertainment for terminally online losers who can't seem to get their act together in real life. I was responding to these toxic videos because their toxic ideas were discouraging men from organizing or even being proactive and having a healthy outlook on life. Ultimately, I just wanted to inspire men to organize. At the very least, I wanted to put good ideas out there and to get feedback, and I couldn't even get that. As much as I was able to gain an audience, it really felt like I was being punished by the very guys who claimed to be on my side, but who couldn't even do anything for themselves in their own lives, let alone men in general. It just became depressing interacting with losers all the time. It literally felt like their sole purpose in life had become to drag other men down to their level. When I say loser, I do not mean failure or someone down on their luck. Um, there is, however, a type of person that is incapable of reflecting or understanding reality due to their ego, arrogance, dishonesty, and laziness. Such people they tend to do the same thing over and over again, expecting different results, and blame everyone but themselves for their mistakes. They're so dishonest that they end up lying to themselves, living a lie, and sucking others into their lie. As long as they're honest about their intentions, I don't begrudge anyone that's just seeking entertainment. I honestly can't even hold it against men who have given up on life, as sad and pathetic as that might sound. Um, However, I draw a line when anyone claims to speak on behalf of men and their interests while doing nothing but take advantage of them, poisoning their minds and dragging them down. Such people that claim to be leaders without having to earn it and who can't even take care of themselves are disgusting hypocrites. They are also dangerous because they portray themselves as objective messengers with altruistic intentions, and they use that as a license to control people and exploit them. I stepped away from YouTube to experiment with different formats. One of the reasons was that I realized how censored YouTube became. YouTube has made a deliberate effort over the years to decrease the amount of interactivity, transparency, and democracy on its website. The overall flavor of YouTube has been corporatized and dumbed down. I personally witnessed one of my videos lose half of its views after it blew up in one day. This didn't bother me as much as the fact that YouTube deletes a lot of long comments of mine on my own channel, which makes it difficult to carve out my own lively but small niche on the internet. I had to deliberately misspell words to get that comment to pass through, just to respond to someone who was commenting on my video. However, I also don't like the fact that most of the commenters in on the YouTube comment sections seem to be extremely low effort. With effort, it is still possible to communicate on YouTube through messages, comments, or video responses. As much as I am grateful for support, Comments like "great video" and "when is the next video," they just don't do much to push the conversation forward. However, even more importantly, even my detractors couldn't bother putting forward good ideas. They would just shit up my comment section with really dumb, low effort cliches and insults. The great paradox was that this was even worse for me advancing my ideas because I had no one really worth responding to. Anytime I touched on any men's issue, I would have a swarm of trolls parading their standard meaningless MGTOW and or TradCon cliches. I even begged my detractors to do video responses to me so that I could understand where they were coming from, but nothing ever came of it. In the few instances that they did do a video response, it had nothing to do with any of the topics I addressed. Not one MGTOW or TradCon ever addressed my criticism of them. Not one. No matter how much I explained that I wasn't a MGTOW or a TradCon, these trolls insisted that they were relevant on my channel because I was talking about men. Because they insisted that nothing could be done to improve the situation of men while refusing to provide any evidence, I was constantly left at an impasse. Every conversation would end with them saying how MGTOW wasn't about trying to change anything, with me retorting that that's not why I'm in MGTOW, for them only to respond that either A, I will fail, or B, I'm a feminist, communist, Marxist, blah, blah, blah. It felt like I was dealing with some sort of mindless virus that just wanted to assimilate me with overwhelming numbers and repetition. So much for traditional stoic, masculine, straight-shooting facts and logic. It felt like I was losing a war of attrition to obsessive and dysfunctional men who were insisting that they were my ally. I even had guys from the old group I used to be a part of harass me on a comment section of Karen Strawn's video because I mentioned them in passing before they even showed up on this video in this comment section. They had told me on numerous occasions that I had betrayed them by leaving their group over genuine differences that I had with them. Now that I wasn't working for them, and it really did feel at the time like I was working for them, they wanted me off the internet entirely. All of this was long after they did a slanderous video of me accusing me of some sort of harassment or stalking behavior. It was just a bunch of made-up nonsense. Because Reddit is text-based, there seems to be more effort in the responses to a post. However, although it was a slight improvement with regards to getting people to respond to specific points and actually engage, Reddit ultimately felt quite similar and had its own plateau of interaction. Most of the people that engaged us on Reddit were our detractors. Because they put more effort in than the commenters on YouTube, we were able to generate some better conversations. However, most of the time we were having to fight off raids. Periodically, our anti-right-wing and anti-TradCon posts would get downvoted into oblivion. The problem was these conversations would only go so far, and getting larger numbers of men proactively involved in our defense proved difficult. Most of our posts and comments got plenty of upvotes, but very few supporters would ever come in and help us out against our detractors and enemies, especially when we were being raided. Most subscribers were passive, with some occasional upvoting, but even less commenting. When a raid occurred, I could tell exactly how many people were involved by the upvotes of our detractors. Only our small inner circle of regular contributors would respond. In an ideal world, every single toxic comment would be downvoted into oblivion. I created numerous posts reiterating our need for greater participation, but guys would only get so involved. It was very difficult to even get commenters to respond to private, personal messages. Our subreddit did grow to about 5,000 subs until Reddit decided to delete it out of the blue without any explanation. Um, Now, I could just blame the internet culture in general, especially the censorship, but I wanted to be more specific here so that we can adjust our strategy going forward. The main problem that most MRAs just don't seem to grasp is that we should have gotten off the internet in the first place decades ago. At this point, the well has been poisoned by toxic ideas and spread by so-called MRAs themselves that have actual organizations outside of the internet. Even with the worst internet censorship, good MRA organizations should have been able to build some sort of mass movement on the ground by now. Like most ideologues, most self-professed MRA content creators, excuse me, and even organizations have no principles or cohesive theory, or they are dishonest and don't spell them out. Most of them are probably not honest with themselves. They also pointlessly attach themselves to right-wing figures and causes, even when time and time again the right betrays men. Even when they don't attach themselves to right-wing figures, they will try to make themselves as innocuous, unthreatening, and as mainstream as possible. MRAs of any stripe seem incapable of putting up a principled resistance to misandry while being unapologetically pro-male. It almost feels like they're more embarrassed about actually taking substantive action than just repetitively talking about the problems of men. As much as I criticize men as a whole, I never target a specific group of men simply to elevate myself, nor do I feel the need to accept responsibility for their faults. I legitimately get the impression that a lot of these guys are just embarrassed to exist as men. Most importantly, these so called leaders do a horrible job of managing their own spaces, especially on platforms like Discord, where there's anonymity and where everyone is treated on relatively equal footing, unless they have their own server. Uh, Even when they're out of the media spotlight, MRAs seem insistent on either A, catering to misandrists as much as possible, like by letting feminists into their group, their Discord server, or B, being completely unwilling to build the movement from the ground up. This wasn't just MRAs, this included anyone involved in any male issues. Even activists like Gregory Malchuk, who would posture about being revolutionary, were complete cowards who were constantly begging celebrities to take up their cause. Even the simplest of things like trying to organize a more radical contingent to attend an activist protest was impossible to organize on Discord. Nobody in the more radical part of the intactivist movement on Discord wanted to rock the boat and challenge the moderate and feminist stranglehold on the intactivist movement. Even in the complete privacy of Discord, intactivist servers were more keen on pandering to racists and feminists than pro-male men. I can't tell you the number of so-called MRA servers that I have been in that have self-identified feminists as administrators. Uh, I honestly think a lot of these guys just don't want to face how difficult and long term the struggle is gonna be. They're hoping that they can somehow weasel concessions from the establishment by appeals to pity alone, and that they can change things gradually over time. They want to remain ineffectual and on the internet because they're not ready yet to sacrifice anything. They want to be saved by some higher power instead of being agents of change themselves. On the internet, it seems that men are unable to cooperate or even disagree, let alone debate in good faith. Um, I can't quite figure out exactly to what extent this is a function of the internet or something to do with men. Part of the problem is the format of YouTube, which seems to cater to this culture of endless skepticism and debating that goes nowhere. Across YouTube, and not just the MRM, uh, people enjoy engaging in gotcha, mind reading, and character assassination because it generates cheap drama and gets views and attention. Although this is common in politics, it seems increased on the internet due to its anonymous nature. To be clear, I have nothing against skepticism per se, um, but it should be the absolute baseline for any decent human being. There's nothing noble or intellectual about marketing yourself as a contrarian skeptic. It's also not particularly difficult to be skeptical, which is why such skeptics always manage to achieve a massive audience. I mean, I will admit myself that it is a guilty pleasure of mine to occasionally watch videos debunking flat earthers, but I also have to admit that it gets boring really quick. Um, Consequently, many, including many MGTOW content creators, would respond to these skeptards in the hopes of attracting views to their channel. The problem with the strategy is that um, it creates this arms race to attract views, and original ideas are sacrificed in the process. Many would stir up drama just to gain views, which only created a toxic culture of drama, which attracted, in turn, a lot of narcissistic, sociopathic, and psychotic people. Um, the problem is that male culture is already toxic as fuck as it is. Our society discourages authentic male expression and friendship between men and encourages competition and dominance hierarchies instead. By 2015, the rise of the alt right made any topic related in any way to men or men's issues become absolutely radioactive, with macho man dude bros crusading for anything but men's well being. A lot of these guys just refused to agree to disagree, and they just enjoy being covertly hostile trolls, even if they stand to gain nothing from it other than attention. I honestly can't help but feel that most of these guys have absolutely nothing better to do with their time, or that they're hoping that they can cash in on some sort of internet fame. At their very best, they can only be tribalistically aligned to a particular ideology or leader so that they can feel like they're part of something and are doing something with their lives. I've literally been told by other so called pro male voices that I'm dishonest. It's like they legitimately cannot believe that I have a different point of view on something very specific, or that they think that I know I'm wrong but refuse to admit it because either A, I want to hang on to some title or prestige or fame or something, B, I want to hurt their feelings, or C, I'm an imposter with a secret agenda. Their ego stops them from reflecting and forces them into a constant state of projection, deflection, and rationalization. Some of these guys will even try to mind read and say, "Oh, you say this, but really you mean that." while accepting their leader or dogma without question. It's not even competitive or adversarial. It's just so hostile and cult like. It's like men want to be adversarial and form into cliques and gangs, even if the threat of violence doesn't exist. They just want to be the smartest and most virtuous, so they can tell everyone what to do without actually leading and doing anything themselves. Um, for this exact reason, we made a rule against that sort of intention fishing in our Discord server. It doesn't matter how dishonest or unethical you think someone is. You still have to be able to put forward your own ideology. It's a. Don't get me wrong. It's a great tactic to be able to get inside the heads of your opponents. But at the same time, you still have to reach fence-sitting third parties who are precisely third parties because they don't understand the issues or they don't know how such issues affect them. This idea that you can just hand wave someone away because you know what they're really thinking deep down is just so unbelievably arrogant and unproductive. And it's just a weaselly form of an ad hominem attack. Yes, evil people do hide behind ideas to get what they want, but you still have to expose their faulty reasoning in order to win people over to your side. Um, Bland moralism and disingenuous browbeating never inspires anyone. It's exactly these kinds of reasons. It's exactly for these kinds of reasons that people say that they're not interested in politics. It's also the same reason for the ascendancy of the right. Normal people they've gotten sick of being accused of being reactionary bigots for just existing. Uh, Normal people can see right through partisan bickering, especially if it's just done just a virtue signal or self promote, and if it's done, if it doesn't get anything done. Um, Movements only grow when the people within a movement offer something and talk to people outside the movement as equals. Otherwise, outsiders will just view you as either A, mentally unstable political extremists looking for mindless followers, and or B, crazy new religious extremists with their own set of dogma and hierarchy with nothing to offer you in the here and now and looking for mindless followers. Um, People have a natural, rational aversion to others that think that they know what's best for them and who claim to have a special insight into what goes on inside other people's heads. They know it's a manipulative ruse. Even more importantly, they have the correct instinct that such people can be extremely dangerous with any sort of power. Anyone with half a brain knows that anyone who claims such insights into other people's minds will have a mandate to be an absolute dictator, rooting out enemies of their people in the name of their nebulous greater good. Another problem, as I briefly mentioned, was that by 2015, MGTOW had been completely hijacked by the right. I'm not sure to what extent it was calculated or whether right wing politics just so happened to work so well with this online narcissistic drama stirring. Uh, in spite of all their praising of masculinity and posturing, most of these men, both on the internet and in real life, really enjoy complaining and talking shit. Um, the great irony is that it is these masculine right wing types of men that are the least willing to engage and actually do something. Um, Another great irony is that it is these very same right wing macho types that are most likely to shit on other men, even if the men that they shit on are masculine like themselves. Conversely, in spite of their patheticness, at least male feminists tend to be more consistent in that they would like to see a world with less suffering and conflict. Right wing macho types, on the other hand, seem to have some sort of strange obsession with never ending male death and suffering. They will never state whether they believe male suffering is inevitable or virtuous. They just They will just insist that it's something that can never or must never be challenged. Even in real life, I've noticed a lot of guys become very good at rationalizing as opposed to thinking as they age. I've even met guys in real life explicitly state that lowering your expectations to the point of giving up is a sign of wisdom. Yes, I've heard this. Um, some even build an ideology around their own apathy and say that it is people that think that they can change the world that are the biggest problem. One MGTOW in particular called me the Al Sharpton of men's rights, while claiming that he himself was dangerous to society because he refused to get married and had sex with prostitutes. These same guys talk shit about some male honor and not acting like women when it comes to organizing. They will accuse anyone who disagrees with them of being an echo chamber. uh, Initially, such right wingers attacked MGTOW for being anti marriage uh, and attacked MRAs for being like the feminists for organizing a legitimate pushback. But all these right wingers want to do is complain anonymously about women and rehash the same points. Even self professed MRAs who were supposed to be multiple steps ahead of the average man always end up in this infinite regression cycle where they just revert to just pointing out misandry. Like, what is the point in making observations if you're never going to try to see deeper patterns and come up with a strategy to address them? In particular, right wingers love to accuse us of being an echo chamber, even after we explain our beliefs to them, answer all of their questions, and engage in good faith. This accusation of being an echo chamber it's so low effort. You may as well just attack us for having a perspective and principles. I find it ironic because the very same right wingers will often accuse us of being nihilists. And how can you be a nihilist and an echo chamber at the same time? It's a complete contradiction. By their standards, every political party and government institution is an echo chamber. It's like they want us to aimlessly complain about how stuff in general sucks for men, while at the same time posturing about being masculine and not complaining. They want to drag us down to their level where they repeat the same stuff over and over again and then engage in these dick measuring contests about who has suffered more and who's more pro-manly or something. I never once have these guys explained to me what their end game was. They can't even seem to define what masculinity really is, who they are, what they believe, and what they even want out of life. As easy it is to debunk right-wing ideas, the right always succeeds through funding volume and hijacking other causes. In particular, they became very proficient at cranking out these low effort videos attacking other low effort videos and low hanging fruit. Um, the problem is that with repetition, it becomes possible to actually propagate ideas to and through simple idiots that sane people would normally find repugnant. Um, Instead of being a method of sharing ideas between men, YouTube just became a tool for self promotion and grift. Instead of bringing men together, it divided them into their respective ideological camps. The entire flavor of the so called manosphere felt not only antithetical to the concept and spirit of organizing and, activism, but also of truth itself. As the years progressed, it felt harder and harder to even have a decent conversation with a lot of other guys.